Hello YouTube, here we go with Quarantine Quickie number 3, and in this I'm going to walk you through a bunch of different dies that I have made myself for different projects that I've needed for the bead roller to produce specific shapes, mainly radiuses of different types and offsets. But in order to do this for yourself, if you see any of the dies that you like, that you feel that you would like to make, you're going to have a radius turning tool. And fortunately, I have a set of plans with a DVD that will allow you to make a radius turning tool almost exactly like what I have. The first set, I guess, would be the flat washers, and I just did 2 videos. Quarantine Quickie number 1 and 2 were on the flat washer, so I'm just going to set those aside. Now let's get down into see what you're going to see today. So here are a good number of the dies that I have made over the years. This set here, you've already seen. Those are the shearing dies that come from Harbor Freight. I did the video on how to shear with your bead roller with these 2, so you can go back into the archives and take a look at those. I don't want to spend any time on those. You can see a whole video on those 2. Okay, these 2 here were made pretty much as a set. I had a specific radius bead that I wanted to make, so I made both a top and a bottom die, and these they were exactly what I needed to produce the product I was after. And this one here I have used considerably more, because I can take my flat washers and set them at any width. I can come all the way out to the majority of its width out in here and here, and it makes a very slow bead. And with this one and a couple of flat washers, the styles that you can get are endless. This one here, as I said, it's just a stepping die. This is the biggest stepping die that comes with the Harbor Freight set when you buy it. I don't think you can get the Harbor Freight anymore. I think they quit making those. But with this one, this was one of my first rounding over die, or I call them tank rolls, and I just used a Lassie, what he calls a flame die. And with this, I made a bunch of tanks, air cleaners for midgets. This one, I use it, I can put a flat washer either on the back side and retain just half of a radius. That makes a nice flange around a piece, or I can put it on the outside and set the depth as deep as I want and still have a nice radius. Okay, so the next set that I have is two of Lazzie's flat dies. These were one of the very first things I got. In fact, I got these before I even started modifying my my bead roller. One thing I did have to drill the inside out. He makes his for his machine, which is a metric size, and obviously welded the keys in there. Those I didn't make other than the key and drilling them out, but they're very useful. They go together and give you a nice flat place to do your rolling. The next thing I got, at the same time I bought the flats, I bought a set of Lazzie flame dies. I did a lot of work with these before I started deciding what it was that I wanted to do with my machine. Here again, I had to drill the hole out and weld it in a key. So those I actually did not make, but had to modify for my machine. This one here is pretty simple. I made it so I could put it with the flame die from Lazzie, and with that I have a larger flat area for the sighting down or making a tank roll. That's just more or less an extension for this die. This one here is a 45. When you're tipping, you can tip up to a certain degree and then you can't go up any farther, sometimes because of the bolt that's at the end of the shaft. But with this, you can bring it up as far as you can, set it in here with another die capturing it here, then your piece is at a 45, and then you can continue to come up with your piece. So this just helps you tip more than a 90 degree. This one here is that Cummins piston pin that I just bored, welded in a key, and this is the main bottom die that I use for tipping. I use this one and that big flat washer. You can see how much I've used it, using this as a fence. That'll go right there, and then I can use either a flat washer, flame die, or whatever, and then I can adjust the width of the flange that I want to tip. And this one, I've used the heck out of this. This is doesn't look like much, but it, as you can see, it has a slight curve here and a straight in this area here. So with this, I can use it in either direction. This way, with the stop being here, it'll hold the material and I can pull up a radius. Or I can set it back in here, put a skateboard wheel here, and I can get almost exactly this radius, just like you would with using a tank roll. This worked out quite handy. So here's the last set. This one here is, as you can see, it's much thicker than just a regular flat washer, and I have the taper only on one side with a slight radius here. This is used most of the time for tipping. This is my top tipping die. Nothing real special about it. In fact, there is absolutely nothing special about it. Just a big flat washer, key, taper on one side. These two here, you can see in making the kick plates. This one is just a piece of 3/8 that I used my radius turning tool and put a perfect 3/8 radius on there. That was made out of plate. This one here was made from 1/2-inch plate, and I needed to have a little bit narrower radius here, so I turned a 1/16 off of here, and this was made out of 1/2-inch plate, like I said. And these two, if you want to see these two, this one being made, these two in use, you can look at the kick plate number 1 and number 2. This is absolutely not anything special that I made. Like I say, it was off of a Ford 1-ton dually, twin I-beam. I just put a radius on this one corner, one edge, so when the material comes through, it won't catch on a sharp edge like this. And that one is very handy for to be used as a fence if you don't want a real deep tipped edge. And then these two, you've seen these a lot. These are the dies that I made for Gene Winfield to make the 50 Merc patch panels. You'll see both of these, how they were made in the radius turning tool, number 1 and number 2, convexed and concaved. So you can look at those two videos, and then you can also see them being heat treated in how to heat treat. So those two go together like that. And once again, I turned this radius slightly smaller, material thickness 50 thousandths. We're using 048 18 gauge material to make the patch panels. So this is a true radius. This one is 50 thousandths smaller to make up for material thickness. So there you have it. If you have any questions, leave them in the description below. And I appreciate all of the comments that I'm getting. See you later.